All right, I'm actually going to do these on paper so that you can see them a little closer. And these are the ones from yesterday, and then I am going to start into the second step. You know, so far we've only done the first step, and that is looking for double signs, okay? So we've kept them in the realm of using the number line, and when you get into the second step, the reason why you're going to start using that is when you start to get out of the number line, okay? The numbers get bigger. So let's go through and do these first from yesterday. I'm going through and I'm looking for double signs. Now you can actually go through and do that first before you start figuring out the actual answer. So I can go through each one and look for double signs and do that first. I kind of recommend that when you're first learning because it helps you practice just identifying double signs, okay? So like this one has one, it has a negative and a negative, okay? And there's no number in between, okay? And it's not multiplication, remember, because that'd be if there was no sign in between the number in parentheses. So I'm going through here, this is a double sign. They're both negative, so it's gonna become a positive 3. So it's gonna become 7 plus 3. This one has a double sign, a plus and minus. Because they're one of each, the minus takes over. Okay, now I'm not answering them yet. I'm just going through and looking for double signs. There's not a double sign here. This sign is not right next to this one, so there's nothing to change here. We'll come back to that one. Okay, this one has a double sign, two negatives right by each other, so that's going to become a positive, 2 plus 3. This one, now we're not going to change this sign because there's not a double sign here. So this sign does not change. That's very important because it needs to stay in -2. Now here's our double sign, plus minus, because they're one of each. It's going to become a minus. Same thing here. There's not a double sign here. This stays the same, but this is a double sign. Minus minus becomes plus. Okay, and then this one is not a double sign. Okay, there's a number in between the two signs, so we're going to leave it. Same thing here, not a double sign. There's a number in between. Same thing here, no double signs. And then this one, okay, there's not a double sign here or here, but there is one here, plus minus, so that kind of shows us. Okay, if you were doing this one thing at a time, the same thing. You would do this and then realize there's a double sign here. This is going to become a -7. Okay, plus minus becomes minus. Now what I can do is go back and actually answer these, okay? So I can actually go back and, sorry, dealing with a little sunlight here. But I can actually go back and answer these now and use, at this point, I could still use a number line or just kind of do the math in my head. But 7 plus 3 obviously is going to be 10. Okay. 4 minus 3 is going to become 1. Okay. And if you're using the number line, remember, start up at 4, go down 3, get 1. -3, and then you add 4. That's going to take you to 1. Oh, I noticed, oh, sorry, I am going left to right, so I've kind of went out of order as far as the numbers. I do have them numbered right from your assignment. I just noticed, though, that I'm kind of going left, right. That's okay, you can still check the ones that you have here. 7 is 2 plus 3, which is 5. Okay, going back to 3. Now here's one that's at -2. And you're going further down the negative side, 3 more, so it's going to be -5. Okay, this one's going to be -1 plus 4, which is going to take you to 3. This one's at -1, and you're going to go down 4 more, so you're going to end up at -5. This one, you're starting at -2 and you're going up 5, so it's going to take you to 3. This one you're starting at -2. You're going to go up 7, so that takes you to 5. And then this one, let's go one at a time, and so you can see it that way. If you kept a running total, though, it would be the same thing. But if I did -3 plus 4, okay, start at -3, go 4 to the right, it's going to take me to 1. So I could rewrite this as 1 minus 7, because I did this, and now I'm still left with this. Also, if you're just doing it on a number line and you're going up to 1, then you're going to go back 7 to go 7 negative. So 1 minus 7 should take you to -6. Okay? So check your answers. Kind of go through that. Slow it down if you need to. But if you notice, I went through and did all the double signs first. That's an easy step you can do. You don't have to do it that way. If you want to go one at a time and change them, change that and then go ahead and work the problem. That's fine. It just gives you a couple different options there. Okay? Now, I want to look at what happens when now we're a little bit bigger. And if you hang with me here, I'm actually, because of sunlight, I think is really gonna mess with the kind of the video quality here. Let's do this, and so I can just talk about how beautiful the day is, and hopefully your math is not suffering. Okay. Yeah, that's better light quality. Okay, so let's do this here. Okay, so let's check these out here. That should be better. All right. So, hope you enjoyed that little break in math. And so, now let's look at these. Here is an example of one that we're not going to want to draw a number line, okay? So, a number line would be really long to draw here. You'd have to, go all the way at least to 12 on this side and then go down 57. You're not going to want to draw that big of a number line. Okay, so what we're looking at now is one that we're going to have to use our second step. So just to recap, when you're going through these, your first step is to look for double signs. Okay, so like this one, we can look, there's not a double sign. There's not a plus minus by each other or minus minus. Okay, and so once you have that, but then you realize, okay, I can't do this in my head, or I can't use a number line, now we're going to have to move into our second step. Okay, and I haven't done this one yet because I've kept them small. But now that they're bigger and we're going to have a way to work these, this is when we start to use the second step. Now this one is a little more intense. Like there's sometimes in your brain you have to switch a little bit. We've been taught so much that this is 12 minus 57, but we have to kind of rework our brains. For one, because when we learned this in elementary, it was always 12 minus a smaller number, like 12 minus 3 or 12 minus 8. But now that it's bigger, we can't necessarily look at this as like 12 minus something. We're going to need to look at this as what sign is this number and what sign is this number. Every number is going to have a sign. It's going to either be positive or negative, okay? And in this case, if we look, now our brains look at this as a minus sign, but if we re-look at this and say, okay, just cover this up for a second. What sign is 12? Well, remember, because there's no negative written here, we know it's a positive, okay? So it's a positive 12. Then if we cover up 12 and we say, okay, what sign is 57? Well, it's negative. If we just wrote that on a piece of paper, it'd be negative 57. Okay, so now if we look at it that, and we could do that as we go on, same thing, that's a positive 18. If we cover it up, that's a negative 20. Okay, things like that. Now, the reason why we're going to do that is your second step is you're going to look at the signs of the numbers, and if they're one apiece, meaning one of them's positive and one of them's negative. Doesn't matter what order they're in. Okay, if the first one's positive, the second one's negative, or if the first one's negative and the second one's positive, if they're one of each, okay, you are going to subtract the numbers. Okay, and by that I mean you're going to always take the smaller one from the bigger one. Okay, now even if, let's take this one, you say, wait a minute, aren't we supposed to subtract this? Well, we're not looking at this as a subtraction problem anymore. We're going to look at it as that's a positive, that's a negative. They're one apiece. So off to the side, I would suggest doing it off to the side so it's not as confusing. You're going to subtract the numbers. Okay, now there's something else we have to do after we do this, but first off, we're going to subtract the numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off to the side, and I'm going to take the smaller one from the bigger one. Okay, yes, I know that I've switched places, but at this step, we can't look at it anymore as 12 minus 57. For one, we can't do them in our head anymore. And two, we're not going to want to, like I said, use a number line and actually do it as 12 and go down 57. We're going to do this step where we subtract the numbers. We're going to do the smaller number from the bigger number always. We're going to get 5, and I'm just subtracting here, 45. Okay, so first off, I'm going to write 45. Now, we're not done yet, but that's what you do first. Okay, so I get 45. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the sign of the answer. So the sign of the answer, sorry, I'm writing this kind of, I'm trying to look through a screen and write it. Sign of the answer is going to be the same as the bigger number. Not bigger value, the bigger number. Okay? So the sign of the answer, this, whatever it's going to be positive or negative, is going to be the same as the bigger number. Well, which one of these is the bigger number? Not bigger value, but bigger number. It's 57, and that is negative. So this is going to be the same. It's going to be negative 45. Now, yes, I know that's kind of weird. If you've never done one like that before, it just seems like, what am I doing? But I promise you, if you keep doing these and practicing it, it becomes a lot easier. You know, I don't even think about the 2 steps anymore. I just kind of do it. But for a little bit, you just have to keep reverting back. Do the double signs. After you take care of that, then do this second step. Now, how this makes sense is, if you think about it, if you had $12 in the bank and you wrote a $57 check, you would have enough positive dollars to cover 12 of this, which is why we took away the 12. But then after that $12, we're now in the hole. That's what takes us 45 in the hole. I think it'd be a little bit easier to see with this one. Okay, same thing though. If you look, it's the same kind of problem. Smaller number subtracting a bigger number. Okay, but if you think about it, this one's a little bit makes more sense. If you had $18 in the bank and you wrote a $20 check, you're going to go $2 in the hole, right? So let's do our process and see if we come out to -2. Okay, first off, no double signs. And then this is a positive 18, this is a negative 20, so it falls into that one sign apiece. So I'm going to go over here and subtract the smaller from the bigger and get 2. And then the sign stays the same as the bigger number. The bigger number is 20, it's a negative, so it's -2. Make a little more sense there? Okay. Let you look at that. All right. Now, this one is written a little different. Okay, it's not in the same order, but if you look, okay, once again, we have a negative number and a positive number. First off, there was no double signs. And then we look and we've got a negative number and a positive number. The only difference is they've been switched places. But it still falls into this negative and positive number. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to subtract the bigger, or the smaller from the bigger. 47 minus 15 to 32. And then the bigger number in this case happens to be positive. It's a positive 47. So it's a positive 32. Okay? Let's try that again with this one. Okay, and I did this one a little bit smaller so you could see again. Think about this one. You could even do the number line if you want to think about it. You're down here at -3. You go 9 above. It should be 6. But let's use our process. No double signs. One's positive, one's negative. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to subtract and get 6. The bigger number is positive, so it's a positive 6. So it works. And it'll work every time as long as you follow those steps. Let's do some more. Okay, a couple more here. Now this, I did put in a double sign first. Okay, if you see double sign. You got 2 signs right in a row. So the first thing we need to do is change that to a negative. Remember, one positive, one negative becomes a negative. Now we're stuck at a positive number and a negative number. That means according to the second step, we subtract them. Okay, get 8. The bigger number is negative, so it's a negative 8. Okay. Last one here on this I'm going to do with you. Okay, so I put another double sign in here. Again, negative, negative. Okay, and negative, negative becomes positive. Okay, so that's the first step. Change that to a positive. Then we look and I've got one negative number, one positive number. So I'm going to do where I subtract them. I get 9. And the bigger number is positive, so it's a positive number. Okay? Now, make sure you're still doing this first step. Check for double signs first. And then you're going to start into the second step. Now, I've only done half of the second step. I've only done the ones that you end up with a positive and negative. Okay? And I did that on purpose. I don't want to necessarily go into the next part of the second step and pile too much on there. I think we just need to kind of practice here. We're going to check for double signs. Some will have them, some will not. See, these don't have double signs, but these did. And then we're going to start into the second step. And the only part so far is if one of each, you're going to practice with going and subtracting them and then changing the sign to the bigger number. Okay, so I put some problems here that I want you to start with. I'm going to show them with the camera. You can copy them down. And if I go a little too fast, you can go back and re-watch here. But those are the first 4. Okay. They build a little bit. If you notice now, I'm slipping in some double signs. Okay. Number 5 and number 6. Like I said, you can pause this or go back. Here's 7 and 8. Okay. And 9. Put a big one up here. I want us to build into that. Okay, don't freak out. This still falls into that one positive and one of them's negative. And then I put a running one here. Okay, give those a try. This will be your assignment today to do these. Upload them to the classroom, and have a good weekend. When we come back Monday, we'll pick up here, go into the second step, and start wrapping up our integers. Okay, this builds, the thing about integers is they're going to be in math now from now on. You're always going to have positive and negative numbers as you build in math. And so if we build a good foundation here, I promise with practice it gets easier to where these become just where you're doing them. You even start being able to do them in your head because they make more sense. Okay, all right, thanks guys.